Okay. Still just the two of us.
Do you want to learn about Thanksgiving defense? Play defense holiday? People are like, I don't know if I want to hear. I don't know if I want to hear. But well, they should. It's a very my approach to it is different than other people's approach. I am quite sure because
Yeah. Okay, I'm interested now. Hi, Marlena. Marlena's on here.
Arlena.
Yeah. Awesome.
Might just be us three, Marlena.
I know.
Oh,
she says hello. Yeah, we could let her have her own little thing here. Just Marlena, happy to be on. We're happy to have you.
Yes. And you might get your own. This could just be a whole chat session if you have questions.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have specific questions before we start, Arlena? Like, are you just like, we should let you talk.
I know.
Alice, were you doing that? Have you done this when we have had everyone just on and we could see them and we would talk? Everyone would just.
No, I think right when I started.
Let me know, Marlena.
Yes, please type anything in that box. I think when I started helping to host was when we started the webinar. Okay, guess we can get started. So since it's being recorded, I'll go ahead and do the introduction for anybody that will be watching later. Whoa, what is that? Okay, so good morning. I just want to let everyone know that we are recording, and we will go ahead and get started. This is our page right here that shows all of our sponsors, and we are so grateful for them and their support of Turning Point. My name is Allison Brazelton, and I'm a therapist at Turning Point. And I want to thank everyone who's joining us live, and then everyone that's going to be watching later. If you have any questions, type them in the question and answer box or the chat, and we will go over them at the end or during, because I think this is going to be a little bit more of a relaxed session.
Yeah, it's always short and sweet and always chill. We always need to be chill. Nutrition needs to be chill, not complicated.
Yes, I like that motto.
Just chill. It's Friday.
Yes, Friday. And before I turn it over to Lisa, just want to let everyone know, of course, that Turning Point is a 501c3 nonprofit that depends on community support. And again, this is our slide with our sponsors. So without further ado, I will send it over to you, Lisa.
Hi, thanks, Allison, and hello, everybody live and everyone who's watching later. Today we are going to talk about, Thanksgiving, playing defense during our Thanksgiving holiday coming up. And Thanksgiving, it means a lot to everyone. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, just for the fact that there's not a lot of pressure. People, my family gets together. We eat, we enjoy food, we enjoy memories, we enjoy silly games and all that. But, our approach back in the day when we used to do, our dietitians used to do topics like this, it was all about what we don't do and can't do and shouldn't do. And my approach is completely opposite and completely different. Thanksgiving is a day. All right. And we need to enjoy that day. That is meant to give thanks and to be thankful for all that we have and everyone that's in our life. And so, we just have to play a good defensive game. Thanksgiving does not have to be a disaster. And I don't want people to think of, and a lot do, is that like Thanksgiving is their like get out of jail free card, and they completely let down their guard down and just completely jump into the mashed potatoes or the bowl of green bean casserole. So the thing that we're going to do is like, what is the key to have still a happy, healthy, successful Thanksgiving as far as health? what is a successful Thanksgiving is, we didn't burn the turkey and our dressing wasn't dry and, our gravy wasn't lumpy or potatoes, but, so what is a key health wise? And that's something that, is always a question, no matter what it is, no matter if it's Thanksgiving or if we're going out to eat, if we're, entertaining, it always like, what is key? And, we always have to think of our bodies. It was real cute the other day, somebody had posted this picture of this triple decker cheeseburger, all the grease and everything. And there's like a caption, like, what do you think of when you see this hamburger? And, a lot of people are like, yum, delicious. But in that sense, I just feel like that burger, and I'm like, it was a kind of a disrespect to your body. It's like, totally uncalled for. You can have a cheeseburger, but it doesn't have to have 14 layers of meat and cheese and bacon and all that stuff. So it's just, the key to everything is to be mindful. Okay. And mindful eating, we just have to sit back and really think about what we're doing. And so I pulled up, like kind of a definition of what mindful eating is, because, mindful eating is paying real close attention to the food, on the purpose, the moment by moment, without any judgment. Okay. Like that burger, like I just referenced that burger. Yeah. If we eat the whole entire thing, I think that's pretty disrespectful. We know that that's too much saturated, too much fat, too much everything. But if you say I could have a bite of that and okay, be done, there's no judgment. It's just the fact is we have to be mindful of what we're putting in our system. It's an approach to food that focuses on the individual sense of awareness. It's making you more aware of the food and the experiences with the food. We have a lot of experiences and a lot of good feel when it comes to Thanksgiving meals. Thanksgiving meals are generally served one time a year. So, it's like that my mom's stuffing, I don't have it all year round. And so it's like, oh, we think about that. That's like that little raccoon when the food is being served. It's like those certain things do touch our memory bank as well. And great positive memories do come from food. So it's an experience overall. The intention is with mindful eating is to help individuals savor that moment of the food and encourage their full presence for eating in that experience. Okay. So, there, like I said, there's no shame or judgment. It's just that we have to be thoughtful and thinking, like looking at the whole entire picture and not picking on just one food item. Back in the day, like I said, what we used to do is like, oh, we're going to do low fat this, and we're going to change this recipe for here, and we're going to, take this away. And at the end of the day, then it's not your memorable Thanksgiving meal. You can always have a healthy option. We can have our mashed potatoes, we can have our gravy, we can have X, Y, and Z, our normal, usual, but then we can offer things that are there, like, a plain, I call it unadulterated vegetable, like maybe it's just a plain steamed broccoli, or, we have Brussels sprouts, and it was real cute. I love Brussels sprouts, and as someone has said, I have the best recipe, and it's got bacon and so on and so forth. Not bad, but like if that's your savory dish, then we still have to pick another dish that we have kind of an unadulterated. So maybe we do have our bacon-filled Brussels sprouts, but then maybe also we offer, put some of those aside that don't have all everything on, or adulterated, I guess. That's my favorite term. So we're going to jump right in. And, mindful eating is eating with intention and attention. So that is the key word is, we know and what our intent is for Thanksgiving meal. We know that. We know where we want turkey, we know we want gravy, we know what we want, but we have to pay attention to what we're doing. So a few simple steps. These are not complicated. Again, I am not here to say no and shame and bash you, but some of these things that we can do to be more mindful and just to think of, where can we tweak and where can we just pay attention, be a closer attention. Okay. Like I said, Thanksgiving is meant to be enjoyed. It is not meant to cut corners or meant to be, in deprivation. So the first step and the first thing that I see that people do that tend to kind of sabotage the whole day is that they restrict. Okay. They restrict their breakfast and they restrict their lunch depending on when they're going to serve their Thanksgiving meal. So they're very restrictive in not eating breakfast or eating a very little bit of a breakfast. Okay, same with lunch, skipping lunch, or, you know, I just think of back when I was growing up and I'm watching, you know, the adults in my family, what my mom did, and, you know, or my older sister, and it was like waking up and, you know, drinking a bunch of coffee, filling up, kind of filling that void with coffee, and then not eating anything. And just anticipating like that big meal. And when we're doing that, we're thinking like, you know, it's just Thanksgiving and we're just going to go for it. It's just one meal, but you know, we still don't want to put our body in a flux. So what is the best thing to do is just to eat as you normally would. You know, if you normally eat breakfast, then wake up and have a sensible breakfast. You know, your breakfast that morning, if we know that you're going to have, you know, turkey and gravy and all the fixing with dinner, we know that our breakfast really shouldn't be, you know, shouldn't be as heavy as our lunches. So it shouldn't be, you know, the big, you know, pancakes and bacon and, you know, all that. It should be something that's more, it's light, but it still fills that void. You know, a breakfast should, that morning would be great to have protein, to have carbohydrates, and to have some healthy fats. That is going to keep you satisfied and help you throughout the day. Okay. Eating the breakfast in the morning is going to help you prevent you from nibbling and eating food all day long. Okay. So same thing with lunch. I don't think this, I just pulled this because I think this is a beautiful color. It's colorful lunch, but it's just a bowl of, you know, black beans and red peppers and everything. It's just color. So, but basically our lunch should be something, if we have lunch, you know, if we choose to have Thanksgiving dinner at dinner time, we should have a little fast in there. Okay. So eat as you normally would, plain and simple. Okay. If you're going to have your good big meal at, you know, in the afternoon, you know, you wake up real early, wake up, have your breakfast, and maybe you have a little bit of a snack before that, before the big meal. We don't want you to go to the Thanksgiving meal or any meal actually overly hungry, starving, and just jumping into it. We want you to have a little bit on your stomach, to be not to have that like gut-wrenching starvation pain. Okay. So the next thing that's real easy to do is to be mindful of the salt intake. Okay, salt is something that brings us pleasure. We know that salt brings out the flavor and the yumminess and all the food that's out there. So when we're cooking, you know, I'm not telling people to avoid using salt as we're cooking. I want you to cook your meals as you normally would. But I want you to pay attention to salt, like at the table, adding salt because it's already salted. Salt is, you know, is one that we can ease up on without a lot of sacrifice. You know, I'm not. I don't want people to go completely salt free because we need the food to taste like the food, but being mindful of adding salt, like at the table. Americans on average eat about 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. But however, the dietary guidelines say that we should intake less than 2,300 milligrams a day, which is equivalent to about a teaspoon of salt. So, so that's something to keep in mind. And just a note, like if you are hypertensive, if you have hypertension, that number should be about 1,500 milligrams per day and not 23. All right, so reading labels and looking at that, we all know this next label is just going to show you this one meal, like an average meal. I just picked this up. Sodium content can vary based on, you know, obviously who's making the meal or what they're making, but calorie wise, you know, the average calories are anywhere from 1,400 to 1,800 calories. Again, it all depends. This is considered a plate. This is all not measured. This is just kind of letting somebody just throw whatever that they want on the plate. And the sodium in this is about almost 3,000 milligrams in that plate just alone. So that is just one serving of everything. So that's why it's important to be mindful of that sodium if we're adding any extra sodium to the meal. Because you know, the next day is, you know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I gained 3 pounds with my eating Thanksgiving day. Well, a lot of it has to do with the sodium content that was in that meal and, you know, retaining extra fluid with that intake. So just watch it, just be watchful. There are sodium, you know, there's hidden sodium. You know, when we think of salt and we think of salty things, we usually think of like potato chips are salty and, pretzels, oh my gosh, they're salty. Nobody ever really thinks of, bread as being a culprit of, or it could be like mashed potatoes, because we do put salt in those mashed potatoes. But French fries, French fries or potato chips and the saltier things, they taste saltier because the salt is on the outside of it. It hits our tongue first. It's like it tells us that, oh my gosh, this is something that's salty. It's satisfying. But the hidden salt is things like in bread. Bread needs to have salt in it in order to help the reaction with the yeast and help it rise. So there's hidden salt in there. And some breads have more sodium in it than like a serving of potato chips or a serving of pretzels, for instance, since we generally pick on those. So just watch the salt. If we salt it enough, if we season it enough as we're cooking, we don't really need any extra salt at the table. So, you can put it at the table, just, be mindful of not putting it on before you taste the food. And I know a lot of people are guilty in doing that. People watch if I'm sitting in the cafeteria and some people will salt their food before they even taste it. So let's try to get out of the habit of, if we're in the habit of something like that, get out of the habit of doing that. Okay, the next thing is a big culprit, is to watch liquid calories. And they not necessarily only in the form of alcohol, but that's what we're going to focus on. I realize that there is, there's wine. I serve wine with my meals. A lot of people, there's other, people will have a cocktail before or drink as they're making their meal. And that's, if that's traditional, if that's something that you enjoy, but I still want you to watch out for those because they can sneak up on you. Even if we're drinking something as simple as like a breakfast, having a mimosa with breakfast, we think of what is in that mimosa. Well, the mimosa has orange juice and the mimosa has champagne. And, about a fourth of a cup, I believe it is, of champagne has about 86 calories. Only a half of a cup of orange juice has 60. So that's 120 calories right there in just a beverage. And if you have one, but do people have just one? Do they have multiple? Other things too are just your bad, like sodas, just regular sodas, or spirits that, things that we put in, like if we do a rum and Coke, a lot of people are like, well, I do Diet Coke, it still has the rum in it. But so let's just watch that. Because this is where we can run into a lot of trouble. This next chart is just basically where calories are. And a large glass of wine is 250 mLs. That's a large glass of wine. That's a cup of wine. And then you have like 5 ounces, a little bit less of the small glasses. So, if we think about it, on average, a bottle of wine, we say in midline, it's about 500 calories. And, saying that you drank a bottle of wine seems a lot, seems like, oh my goodness, but that's about 4 glasses of wine in a whole, and you can do that in a whole day, throughout like making your meal and having a glass of wine with your meal or having a glass of wine for dessert. That all can add up. And that's about roughly about 500 calories. So that can add in, that adds in a lot. An extra 500 calories a day, if we do that over 7 days, that will warrant a 1 pound weight gain with just that simple extra calories. So other things on there, like, I had the rum and Cokes are on there, and then gin and tonics. And so what I've recommended is, because a lot of people have just asked me, and, I pick on the alcohol just because that is our extra. We enjoy it, and I enjoy a good glass of wine as well. But I say, that's good and fine. But in between those, I recommend that we drink some water. And I get a lot of people that roll their eyes when I say that. But we have to be. This is playing defenses. So if we have 8 ounces, or if we have a large glass of wine, I always say to offset that with about 4 ounces of water. So about a half a cup basically, or a quarter of a cup to a half a cup of water. Make sure that we're drinking that in. And that's going to help. That one is going to help slow us down as far as with the alcohol consumption. I will even go as far as to put a wine glass and have the water in a wine glass, because that the whole experience of holding a wine glass and drinking wine out of it is all part of it. And so I put water in there and make sure that I drink a fourth of a cup with every drink that I have, or like a half of a cup to a fourth to a half of a cup. Okay. Because with that being said, if we do that, what will happen, and what you'll see, is that you will, one, meet your water needs for the day. And it's very important, especially on Thanksgiving Day, that, because as I said prior to, is that we have our sodium content is a lot higher. So sodium retains fluid, and what we need to do is flush that sodium out. So make sure that we completely hydrate that day. I recommend in the morning too, like on Thanksgiving morning, is that we ultra hydrate before anything gets started. Take 4 glasses or 4 8-ounce glasses, take a water bottle, like this water bottle. As you're getting ready, drink the water bottle. Make sure, like, as you're in the bathroom getting ready, drink that whole entire water bottle, so that you're assured, that's insurance for you, that you're getting some of that in. And then these little tricks of drinking the water in between. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be with alcoholic beverages. So, it can be with sodas, even a diet soda. Let's counteract and be proactive and drink some water in between that. Okay. So water is very important. So those are the two things so far, is watching our sodium and then watching our liquid calories. The next thing, the biggest form of defense, I say, on Thanksgiving is to go out and be active. Activity, as we saw, it plays a huge role in a lot of things, but you can get out in the morning and go out. It doesn't have to be running a marathon or a half marathon. It can go out and just getting in some fresh air, going in and getting that metabolism kick-started, and get out there and burn some calories. So go out, maybe that can be an event, being active during the day, especially post mealtime, because what happens after mealtime at Thanksgiving is we generally eat, we clean up, and then we kind of sit down. Some people sit and watch the parade, or sit and watch football. And once we sit, that tryptophan from the turkeys, it kind of sits in, and we kind of get groggy, plus the big meal that kind of dumped into our system, kind of sitting pretty heavy, and we're just like, ugh, just like a potato on the sofa. So it's really encouraged, like after our meal, we clean up, and then we go out and are active. We can go walk, we can go play football, we can go play shuffle, we can just go up and I would like people to be more erect than more horizontal, and get out there and get moving. So if we look at this is another way. So I'm gonna, in a second, I'm gonna show you how much we'd have to move and walk and be proactive in order to burn some of these things. So if we look, this is another, I liked this one because this is a little bit more realistic, I think, in the form of being mindful. I don't want to say realistic in the form of serving sizes, but this is really, this plate I thought looked like a decent plate. Like, it's not, 4 cups of stuffing or 4 cups. So if we go around the plate and we look, it's a normal serving size of turkey, about 3.5 ounces. And that's about 177 calories. You have a fourth of a cup of gravy. This is a mindful plate. And if we look at the calorie level, it's still about almost 1,500. You've got your stuffing, a half a cup, and that's a normal serving size of stuffing. Mashed potatoes is generally a cup. What I would say is, like, maybe cut that back like by half if you wanted to. But mashed potatoes are my favorite, so I'm going to splurge on the mashed potatoes. The cornbread, almost 200 calories. The sweet potatoes, 200. That beloved green bean casserole is about 200, 230. Our wine, their wine is only about 125, but theirs are 5 ounces. And then you have your cranberry sauce. So, if we look at this, how I look at everything at Thanksgiving, or actually even whenever I go out, say if you go to, a party, and, there's a lot of that going on these days, and you kind of should assess everything first. I ratted myself out and I say I love mashed potatoes. That's my favorite. And so that I'm willing to give up a lot more calories as far as like, I know cranberry sauce, but it's not really my thing. So I don't generally put it on my plate, green bean casserole, I'm not over the top with it. So, I just go and I kind of just do this you know, this check, like, do I really want that? Or is it something I'm really in wanting, or this is Thanksgiving to me. Like, this is Thanksgiving. Like, my mom's stuffing is Thanksgiving. That's all I have. I have it just one time a year, Thanksgiving. So I go a little heavier on that. And I love turkey, but I'm pretty cap out of it 3 ounces. So, cornbread, I love cornbread, but that day I would rather actually save my calories for either dessert, and we're not even mentioning that in these calorie range, for the dessert or for like the mashed potatoes or one of my favorite foods. Okay. So that's just the calories, and that's how we're looking at this. Then on average, if we look, this is just like, I like this because it was really easy. When we guesstimate calories, it's just a guesstimation. So, we kind of offset. I usually tell people, like, on average, when you walk a mile, you burn about 100 calories, and it's about 2,000 steps. So, the goal is to burn, to walk 10,000 steps a day, which is about 500 calories if we break it down to that way. So I like to do that, to look at, like, if I do 100 calories for every mile. So say, for instance, this meal period, like, if you're like, this is it, Lisa, I want this meal. So, we want to back just to look at it and just think of, like, how much activity we would need if we wanted to legitimately burn all those calories. And it takes 1 mile to burn 100 calories. We'll be walking about almost 15 miles that day for them. Okay, if we want to offset the whole entire meal, which I'm not saying to do that at all, but if we think about it, if we can in the morning go out and burn 100, walk a mile or 2 miles, we can do 2 miles. That's 200 calories. And then after we eat, we don't have to walk not at a fast clip, but just get out there, enjoy the weather. And if you walked another 2 miles or maybe even 3 miles, you can hike through the woods, you can hike in the neighborhood. That's burning 500 calories. That's being very, very proactive in what you're doing for that day. Okay. The other thing, and I didn't put on here, and I didn't even mention, is the dessert end of everything. And our guidelines as far as with sugar consumption, and I've talked about it in different lectures, is the guidelines from the American Institute for Cancer Research, recommends that we keep our added sugar consumption down to 6 teaspoons in a day. Now, we understand this is a special day and you're going to blow that number. And that's part of the reason I didn't want to put all that on here, is just for the fact that that's kind of a given. If we like the desserts, you might be one that, like, I'd rather forego all those calories and eat my mashed potatoes in the form of, instead of my pecan pie or pumpkin pie. But they're all going to be a little bit, you're going to meet your sugar allowance, that's for sure, for that day. But in those recipes, like, you can, in some of those, you can add a little bit less sugar, and the products still turn out the same. But over the extent of it is, if we like everything that's served, we were thinking of our menu the other day, and everyone likes, I've got one person that wants pumpkin pie, I've got one person that wants apple pie, I've got one person that wants a chocolate cake. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness. So, and all of them are good. They're great and they're delicious. So, how would you play defense? Is not take obviously a full piece of that pie, or just a piece, a little taste of everything. And sometimes just a taste of something, if we taste it, we put it in our mouth, we just kind of let it hit all of our taste buds, it kind of will satisfy that craving. And 2, I want you to think about, I know that it's Thanksgiving, and I know that, like, pumpkin pie is it, but I always say, like, in that day, like, to analyze, do I want pumpkin pie today? Like, Is that something I really, 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 really want to complete my day? And if the answer is yes, then by all means. But if you're just eating pumpkin pie or eating cornbread dressing just because it's Thanksgiving and that's what we need to do, then I want you to really think about it, because you can save calories that way. If you're sitting there and you really don't want any of the dessert, you might not. I mean, but again, is that realistic or not? But sometimes you just might not want it. And if that's okay, it's okay to have a plain cup a cup of coffee, or just sit there while everyone else is eating and not have it. It's okay to do that. And sometimes it's kind of like peer pressure, I call it, is everyone's eating, you feel like left out, you need to eat as well. And that's not the case. So it's just like stepping back and asking yourself, am I really hungry? Because our tradition with how we do it is, we have our Thanksgiving around 2 or 3. And then I'm telling you, a couple of years ago, I swear it was like we cleaned everything up, and then the kids come in, they're like hungry again, and they want the sandwiches. And I'm like, we just ate this big meal. And so it's sometimes it's trying to get everything. We're trying to get all of our food, all of these yummies into that one day, when we should kind of just spread it out throughout the day. Or think about, am I just eating this because it's a Thanksgiving meal, or do I really, 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 I mean, and most of the time we really want Thanksgiving, but some of that stuff, if we don't want it, I don't think it should be forced. Okay. So the brisk walk, 25 minutes walk, 25 minutes, if you're out there 25 minutes, they say on average you burn 1 calorie for every pound of body weight that you are. Okay, so that's easy enough. So, if I'm a 175 pounds, in 25 minutes, it says 1 calorie per every pound. So I can, if it's a real brisk walk, I can burn that many calories. So kind of gear it towards that. And then just stay active. Do anything that you can just to be active in that day. Okay. So again, just being mindful, we're coming to the end, but just being mindful that day. Sit down and give thanks and just watch a couple of things. And I think that you will still enjoy the full meal, the full day, but just not feel as guilty in the back end of everything. So, and then that's it. That's basically our happy Thanksgiving. And I know there's a couple of questions, I think.
Yes,
Okay.
it looks like Marlena sent some. Oh, and if you guys hear Jones in the background, that's him.
Okay, here.
So yeah, they're over here in the chat.
Very good. It's a very good point. Is that, yes, assessing the food first. Marlena, that's an excellent point. Is that's what you do. Even like when, like if you go to like any fun kind of family function or any party, or like when people go to buffets, we always like cringe at buffets just because people start to they don't look and see what's, and like you go through and like, well, that looks good. Oh my gosh, and that looks good, and that looks good, and it all looks good. But like if we start at the back end, not start with your plate, but if I go to anything like that, I usually start at the back and go backwards and look at the entrees and then see all what I want. And like there's things like, that I really, really, really want. When we're standing in front of food, we're starving and we want it all, and that's what ends up happening. But if we really stop and think about, we don't what we really, really want and what we're just eating just because it's there. A good point, like today, like today I'm at my office and someone brings in cookies, warm cookies from a bakery up the road, and everybody went and flocked in there. Now I'm like, do you guys really want them, or just having them because they're there? And they're good. I'm not going to deny that. So that's where becomes really, that's where that mindful eating becomes really important. Okay, so that's one. Let's see, what was the other one? Oh, okay. Was there something else? I feel. So, okay, you made a good point. Going overly hungry. A lot of people do that. I'm telling you, I was guilty back in the day before I knew any better. I remember, I blamed it on my mom and my sister, but we all did the same thing. I remember my mom waking up at like 5, putting the turkey in and smelling it and be starving. But I'm like, no, I can't eat anything until Thanksgiving. And then I remember just eating like what? And then feeling terrible. It's terrible after that. And two, when it's not good for your system to have nothing all day and then have this big clunk of a meal. It's not a healthy thing to do for your system. Oh yeah, some will be going to 2 homes and 2. That's right. So I didn't even address that. If there are 2 homes that you're going to, so and you'll be having 2 meals. So what it is like if one home has one like a traditional dish that they generally have like they're known for, then you splurge on that dish. But like if everyone is serving like mashed potatoes, that they're pretty much comparable, or gravy or turkey, I mean, then you think of like go to the tradition that family has, like cornbread dressing or oyster, whatever. Like my mom's dressing wasn't all bad. It's just like that to me is a memory, a very good comforting memory from my childhood of being together with all my family, and having that only once a year. My mom only made it that one time a year. So and you can go around and you can get a tablespoon of this and a tablespoon of that and try everything. I mean, it's completely feasible to do that as well. If we go back, if we eat a little bit of everything, and then you can go back and get something that you really enjoy, instead of putting 3 cups of whipped potatoes on your plate, putting a couple tablespoons, eating everything, letting that settle down and saying, okay, what do I really want? And, what did I really, 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 really enjoy? And I'd really, really, really want more of. And, I would run up and get some more mashed potatoes. But, that's a good point. If there's multiple houses involved, then we have to be even twice as mindful. Okay. Let me see. Are there any more? Oh, yeah. And drinking that water. That's my biggest thing, is in between staying hydrated. In between, even with alcoholic beverages, is because they are dehydrating. They can dehydrate us. And, on a day like this, or any day, like if it's, we're out having a drink with our friends and we're forgetting to be mindful about, they pour a glass of water. If you go out to dinner, they give you water and then they give you your wine, but we're not being, 9 times out of 10, we leave that glass full at the dinner table. And if we can manage to complete that glass as we're having our drinks or our meal, the water is going to help fill us up as well, so we won't eat in as much or as bigger quantities on the back end of everything. So that helps. Those are good points. Any other questions? Let me see. Did I go backwards in the back? There's so many memories I have with Thanksgiving. So many bad things that we did. I don't want to call them bad. They shouldn't be bad. They were bad habits is what they were. They were not being, thinking about mindfulness, but we didn't know anything about, I didn't know, like, yeah, let's eat breakfast. I just thought I was going to save all my calories. But when we do that and we skip meals, the research has shown that by the time we eat our supper, we do eat more calories at that meal that we would have eaten if we would have had breakfast. At the end of the day, we end up eating more calories at the end of the day eating one meal than if we would have split it up to breakfast, lunch, and then having a dinner. So that's very helpful to keep that in mind. And that's another reason to eat it. Okay. Is there anything else? I kind of raced through that one.
Yes, and we also had another participant come on. Hi, Laura. So yeah, I think.
I know this is like, it's funny, like everyone's like, I don't want to hear it, because I mean, really back in the day, I was like, don't do this and don't do that and substitute, this for that. And it's not fun that way.
Yeah.
How I say is, like, if we're going to do a Thanksgiving meal, like say in July, then we can play with substituting, and because we really shouldn't have a huge meal like that in July either. But I mean, it is one day. It is one day.
Right.
But we just don't want to throw ourselves under the bus in one day. We can think of 3 little things, and the sodium, the exercise, and then the hydration and watching the alcohol are the biggest things in my mind. The easiest to do.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa,
You're welcome.
for that. That was a great presentation. And again, it was recorded. So we will have that on our social media for anybody that wants to go back, or anyone that's watching later. And if you have any more questions, you can always email us at staff@myturningpoint.org. I want to thank everybody for attending, Laura and Marlena. You guys are
Yes.
awesome.
They're probably like, oh my goodness.
Oh no, shout out. So just a reminder, Turning Point is committed to supporting the recovery of breast cancer patients through survivorship education. Please feel free to express your appreciation of this complimentary program through a donation at myturningpoint.org, which is a new website. So if you guys haven't logged on to see our new website, please do. It is beautiful. It looks great. And if you want to donate, you can do that through PayPal on our website. And I want to thank everybody again for.
Thank you, everybody. And like the end of the day, I think the word is like to be mindful. That little monkey's supposed to be mindful, but just to be mindful at the end of the day of what we're doing and we're aware. Okay.
Yeah.
And enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yes, you too, Lisa. Enjoy Thanksgiving, Marlena and Laura. Thanks for logging on.
All right. Okay, everyone. Have a great Friday.
Yes, you too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.